Hello everyone. Yes. Told you guys the next video would be Ben Shapiro. And I didn't lie. I'm kind of very scared. I don't know what I'm walking into. So, cause unlike the last video, I haven't watched this. So I genuinely don't know what it is I'm about to walk into. But if you didn't see the last video and you have no idea what I'm talking about, Ben Shapiro is a YouTuber who makes a lot of videos that are questionable in nature. And in most videos he makes towards the trans community, he's not very big fans of us. Which, I get it. Not everyone's going to be fans of us, but you don't have to be rude. Plain and simple. You can have your opinion, you don't have to be a dick. So, today we get to watch this. Yep, if you could see what I'm seeing as well, you'll understand. Misgendered teen runs away and gets sex trafficked, but misgendered is in quotes. And if you remember correctly, I can't remember if I left it in. I think I might have, where I read the this part, the little description of Ben explaining how he feels about Luke, the teen runaway, in this. So yeah, might as well not waste any more time, right?
Our best investigative reporter right now is Luke Rosiak. Luke does an amazing job. It was Luke who uncovered the sexual assault of a minor by a person who identified as a member of the opposite gender in a bathroom in Loudoun County, and the denial of the Loudoun County School District that anything bad had happened, and it totally shifted the Virginia governor's race. Well, now Luke has another story, and this story is just gut-wrenching.
To make sure I was not wrong of how I read this. Huh. That's strange. That's a bit different than the last one I read, I think. Because could have sworn the kid's name was Luke. But, sometimes I get it wrong. I'll own that one. I got that one wrong. I'll own that one. Let's see if Ben's gonna be the dumbass and put the wrong name and pronouns in this like he did in the description. And by that I'm referring to the wrong pronouns where he refers to them as her, which, judging by his title and the fact that he's using that pronoun, I'm gonna assume he got it wrong.
So, here is the story. Apparently, the state of Maryland refused to give a Virginia runaway back to her parents because her parents, quote unquote, misgendered her. And then she was sex trafficked, according to the mom.
Yeah, Maryland had every right not to give her back to her parents. They'd be knowingly putting her back into an unsafe situation. And a disrespectful, abusive household. Why would they in their right mind give her back? I'm very scared about how he's gonna go about this. We're 30 seconds into the video and I'm already not liking this.
These are the wages of a state that values gender ideology nonsense over the actual safety of children.
Oh! Thank God I have coffee. Ben. Saying that they care about the ideology bullshit. The gender ideology bullshit. Well, nonsense, essentially, is what you said. I'm saying bullshit, because it means essentially the same fucking thing. Over the safety of young children. Giving them back to their parents after being misgendered is so unsafe. So Maryland did the right thing there, but putting over safety, there's no way they could guarantee she would get sex trafficked. Ben, they did the right thing by not giving them back to her parents I don't know which fucking pronouns to use here, because I don't know how they identify. This is interesting. So I'm trying not to be a cunt in how I'm saying it, but also trying not to get mad at him, and also reading what's in front of me. Maryland didn't give this child back to their parents because it was an unsafe situation. In doing so, it also led to an unsafe situation. An unsafe situation that couldn't have been known was gonna happen, Ben.
Here's what Luke reports. Quote, a 14-year-old transgender runaway from Virginia endured a 6-month nightmare that saw her twice fall into the hands of sex traffickers, the second time after Baltimore bureaucrats refused to return her to her home state because they accused her adoptive parents of misgendering her, according to records reviewed by the Daily Wire. The child, identified in legal documents as Sage, was adopted by her biological grandmother, Michelle Blair.
Sage. Okay, the kid's name is Sage, I'm assuming. And based on the fact that he said they identified as this and all of that, I'm assuming that Sage is the name. And adoptive parents. Okay.
After the death of her father. Long troubled, Sage began identifying as a male named Draco and ran away from their rural home in late August of 2021.
Draco. Okay, the name is Draco, and started identifying as a boy named Draco. Okay.
Only to end up on the mean streets of Baltimore, where authorities rescued her from a convicted sex offender, according to records. So she ran away from home. She ended up in Maryland. She was in the home of a convicted sex offender.
I'm sorry. Every time he says she, I'm gonna want to throw him through a wall. Every goddamn time he says she, I want to throw him through a wall. It's not that hard. It's right in front of you. Have some fucking respect for someone. You're reporting on their story, at least have the right to be respectful enough to use even the right pronoun. You're not using the right name either, but that's fine. We're gonna ignore that because there's no fucking way you're gonna say the right name. So at least give them an ounce of respect. Like, fucking hell. Doing both would be wonderful, but you and I both know you're not gonna do that. So just try one fucking thing, Ben. At least try to give an ounce of respect to the person whose story you're fucking telling.
And the authority found her. But instead of taking her back to her parents, instead, they decided to put her in an inner-city group home. Why? Well, because they said that her adoptive blood relative parents didn't sufficiently recognize her transgender identity. So they'd rather put her in, essentially, an orphanage.
A group home is not an orphanage. A group home is not an orphanage, Ben. A group home is a living situation for children that either one cannot live with their parents because of death, or cannot live with their parents through other means that make their parents incapable of looking after them. It's not a fucking orphanage, Ben. Also, yes, putting them in a group home instead of giving them back to their fucking transphobic parents? Fuck yes, Ben. Better option, entirely. I know you're going to have a very different opinion about that, but it is. It's a much better option to have this child taken away from those people that are not supporting them than have them in an unsafe situation. Right? It is mentally better for that child.
In Baltimore, with random people, rather than with her adoptive parents, who apparently are close relatives, because her close relatives refuse to acknowledge that a boy can become a girl or a girl can become a boy.
Yeah. But I have a feeling you're going to have a massive problem with that, as you typically do. You're going to have a fucking shit fit at this, aren't you?
It is not possible to return the child to that home, said Judge Robert B. Kershaw, after an impassioned plea from Baltimore Assistant Public Defender Anissa Khan. Instead, the judge turned Sage over to the Baltimore City Department of Juvenile Services, quote, for placement in a hardware-secured therapeutic facility, which makes reasonable accommodation for respondents' expressed male gender and desire to live as a trans male. Remember, this is a 14-year-old child. This is a child. That meant housing the girl just rescued from a...
So you're saying because they gave a trans man a better option, instead of giving him back to his transphobic family, gave him the option where he would be supported and looked after, you have a problem with that. Because they're supporting a gender delusion. But I'm going to say something you're not going to agree with. Okay? There are a lot bigger delusions out there than the one you're currently bitching about. For example, there's evidence that trans people exist. There's no evidence of something else existing. Yet everybody, including you, seems to be okay with the existence of that guy. But when there's actual evidence that something exists, you still want to say it doesn't exist. You genuinely make me angry, bro. You genuinely make me angry.
Sex offender with some of Baltimore's most troubled biological males. After months in Maryland institutions, Sage bolted, only to resurface in Texas, where she once again had been allegedly trafficked to pedophiles, according to records. Unlike their counterparts in Maryland, Texas officials returned her to her parents.
Of course Texas did. Because Texas is also transphobic as fuck. Also, he bolted. Yeah. Quite a lot of teenagers run away. And a lot of the time, it's because they're scared. And he's in a completely new place, surrounded by people he doesn't know, man. Of course he's gonna be fucking terrified. Like, the fuck?
According to an ethics complaint that was filed by the parents against the public defender. Khan allegedly told the girl to lie about being abused by her parents, seemingly in order to create a legal precedent allowing states, other than where a teen lives, to refuse to return a runaway teen if transgender issues are in play.
Oh, but you can't prove that. I would love to see him prove. Like, if in the next 10 seconds he tells me of proof that the parents can prove that the individual was told to lie about the abuse. Because a lot of parents will deny being transphobic towards their trans kids for fear of looking like horrible parents. And for fear of what the public will say about them, so they pretend to be okay with it, but then are behind closed doors extremely transphobic.
Whew. We'll get to more on this in just 1 second. First, there's one substance that is keeping me alive and kicking these days, that is black. So again, just to...
Again, if you don't know why we randomly just skipped over a paid promotion that Ben gets. So a sponsorship that Ben has. No. And I'm not going to give it any more promo than he has, because quite frankly, I don't want to give people like this more money in their pockets. So that's not going to happen at all.
Just to be clear about what happened here. The accusation is that the Baltimore Assistant Public Defender, Anissa Khan, encouraged this very troubled 14-year-old girl, who is now identifying as a boy, to claim abuse.
If you know they're identifying as a boy, why the fuck do you keep calling them a girl, Ben? Like, oh my god. You're actually pissing me off.
At the hands of her adoptive, close relative parents, so that she would not be returned to those people, mainly because they say that she's actually a girl and not a boy.
Mm-hmm. And you have a problem with that? Why, Ben? Because you're transphobic? Yeah, I figured that was what you were going to say. Oh, my God. You are a new breed. You're a special breed, Ben. You're a special breed, mate.
Being the subject of an interstate tug-of-war driven by an ideological leftist bureaucracy was a new kind of exploitation for Sage, who had become accustomed to evil men seeking to use her for profit or gratification.
So she'd become accustomed to being abused by people. I wonder how that happened. I wonder how this teenager became accustomed to being abused by people. I wonder, Ben. I wonder, mate.
Her grandmother recounted for police how the cruel spiral began for the child she still hopes to raise. "I went to wake up my daughter," Blair said, describing the morning of August 25th, 2021, in an Appomattox County Sheriff's Office report. "She was gone. The window screen had been cut open. I immediately looked everywhere, and they drove to the Appomattox Sheriff to report Sage missing." Sage would later reveal she sneaked out to meet someone she thought was a 16-year-old boy who liked skateboarding, but the person was in fact a sex offender who had been grooming her online and took her to Washington and then to Baltimore.
Okay. Now, where in that sentence you just said, I understand, kids are groomed every single day by pedophiles. It's just what happens. It sucks, but it's what happens. In the statement you just read by the grandmother, nowhere in that statement do I hear that public offender lied. Nowhere in that statement does it not say that grandmother is not being transphobic. One, they referred to them as their dead name, or the name they don't identify with. And they misgendered Draco, I think that was his name, yeah. The whole goddamn time. And yeah, you wanted to give them back to them. And the parents didn't know he was talking to this person that whole time. They didn't know that their teenage son was talking to this man this whole time. Nothing at all. Doesn't that give a little bit of interest in the fact that they didn't bother to watch what their child was doing that intently, or at least try to bond with their child at all, that their child would tell them something like that? Maybe it's the fact that they were being transphobic that led to him not saying anything about where he was going and going there by himself and getting himself hurt. Because he didn't trust the people he was living with to respect him as they don't now, so why would they respect him and listen to him and not just get mad at him? Ben, you actually have to think about this from the teenager's perspective. Not that they're a teenager that doesn't know anything. They're actually relatively, teenagers know some shit, Ben. We don't know a lot, but we know some shit. And before anybody makes a comment on the fact that I just called myself a teenager, I'm still 18. I'm about to turn 19. I have a good year before I'm out of my teenage years. I will admit I'm still a teenager. I will admit that. I'm a teenager that is living an adult life, with the early stages of an adult life. It's scary. I know, I get to be an adult. It's fucking strange.
According to Michelle, a frantic search that included the Sheriff's Office, FBI, Virginia State Police, and U.S. Marshals ended 1 week later when Sage was found in Baltimore with Kenneth Fisher, a 36-year-old convicted sex offender. In the week she'd been missing, Sage experienced untold horror at his hands. Blair would later write in a victim impact statement, quote, "When Sage was delivered to this man, he told my daughter she was now part of his family. Sage replied she was only 14 years old and please don't rape me, to which Kenneth Fisher immediately took her into his bedroom and violently raped her. He enjoyed strangling her, but not quite to death."
Yeah, probably. Because even if you beg someone like that not to do something horrific like that, they don't care about your feelings. They don't care. They didn't grab you and move you to a completely separate state for no reason. They have a reason. They're delusional and disgusting, but they had a reason. So begging with them, regardless, was never going to change anything. He was in their, hands now. It wasn't gonna end well.
This sick man trafficked her to so many men that Sage lost count. Fisher is now being housed in jail, but he was not the last adult to exploit Sage, because after Sage was found, Blair drove all night to pick her up. But the city of Baltimore said she was being held in jail as a defendant, apparently for running away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you run away in America, you don't just get away with it. In some cases, you get charged with running away. There is actually a charge for teenagers that run away. It probably, if I'm thinking the way I think it works, I'm willing to bet that when this teenager explained the living situation they ran away from, to go talk to the person that they thought was a 16-year-old that ended up being this disgusting piece of shit, that would have been the time when they would have decided not to give this child back to the family that is so rightfully doing all of the wrong things. Like, they're doing all of the wrong things.
Her court-appointed lawyer was Khan, whose LinkedIn page says, quote, defense attorneys become the heroes of justice, as they were called to stand in the gap between the coercive power of the state and the relatively limited power of the indigent accused, who were and are still disproportionately black and Latinx. It was Khan who persuaded Judge Kershaw not to return Sage to her home in Virginia after her 72-year-old grandfather, overcome by emotion, accidentally called her she. Ironically,
Overcome by emotion, accidentally called her she. No. No. If his grandmother is explaining that, oh, I walked into my daughter's room and she wasn't there, it wasn't an accident. It was not an accident. They're openly being transphobic and then blaming it on emotions and saying that it's not the way it is. It's like lighting a match and going, oh, I didn't light the match. I accidentally lit the match. Like, you don't understand, Ben. Because you're taking the side of the wrong people because you haven't been in our position before. Like, you haven't been in our position that you think those grandparents are in the right. They're in the right, and the people that are protecting this child are in the wrong. That's not the way it is. And you only see it like that because you're not in that situation. If you were in that young man's situation, you wouldn't have this opinion.
Blair is a longtime court-appointed child advocate, ordinarily making her an ideal trusted parent. But the Maryland Juvenile Court maintained her home was abusive, even after a local Virginia agency's investigation found no such mistreatment.
Didn't they? Or did the parents do a good job at talking it over? To the point where you couldn't tell there was a problem. Maybe, maybe not. All I'm saying is things aren't always as like, they're not always as this is the problem and this isn't the problem as it seems, because you actually have to look at the different sides of things, not just use your opinion and what you think is right and then go, well, that side has to be right. No, Ben.
Blair believes Khan was intent on making her daughter a poster child in the fight for trans rights above parental rights, no matter the cost. A week after ruling that Sage could not be sent back to Virginia, Kershaw received a form asserting Blair's right of custody and the obligation of the state of Maryland to turn her over under the Interstate Compact on juveniles, the ICJ. Kershaw rejected it on a technicality. Kershaw, careful to use Sage's preferred masculine pronoun and new name, also faulted the petition for failing to, quote, state the circumstances of Draco's running away or his location at the time the application was made.
Can we just establish every time he says Draco's name, the tone of his voice when he says it? Draco. Like, could you not act like you're so offended by using someone's preferred name, please? Like, his name is Draco. He's a he. Get over it, Ben.
Kershaw ordered Sage fitted with a GPS monitor and sent to an institution called the Children's Home. But it seems that Draco then ran away again. Sage ran away again.
Oh. 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 We have to play that again, because that was entertaining.
She ran away again and found herself.
Did you guys see that? Hold on.
Draco then ran away again. Sage ran away again.
He used preferred name and then went dead name. You didn't have to do the second half of that sentence. But the fact that you went with the first half as well, even if you're reading it, proves that whoever wrote that knows that being transphobic is wrong, because they keep unintentionally being supportive. They keep unintentionally being like, hey, right name, hey, right pronouns. Like, fucking hell. I hate people like this. They're the people that are transphobic because it's trendy to be transphobic to people. Fuck off. Just like it was socially acceptable to hate gay people back in the fucking, back in 1900s and shit like that. Back in, the 50s and 60s and shit. Like, grow the fuck up. My God.
And found herself in Texas, where she was then trafficked to a bunch of pedophiles. So, the trans agenda taking precedent over any interests of the child. Absolutely horrifying story. Good on Luke for reporting it. If this is a systemic problem across the country, kids being removed from their parents because the parents refuse to go along with the predations of gender ideology.
So in other words, children being rightfully removed from transgender families, transphobic families, fucking hell, why was that sentence so difficult to say, is a problem for you. Why is that a problem for you, Ben? Huh? Why? Because they're going into gender ideology? They're giving into gender ideology? Motherfucker, grow up. Get over it. Get over it.
We are in a world of trouble, and so are our children. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing.
No. And yes, again, he's done it again. Only a portion of his episode is member exclusive. Which means that's where that video ends. Because clearly he doesn't want you to see the rest unless you're a member exclusive of him. That was interesting. I'm not surprised at the fact that Ben is still being transphobic. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised that he thinks kids being removed from transphobic families because they're not safe in those environments is a problem to him. I'm not surprised by that at all. Of course he's not going to be supportive of us living our fucking lives and doing what we have to do to live. Bro, I don't understand his hatred. I don't understand his blatant disrespect. I don't understand why he is so rude to people. I don't get it. But hey, some people are just gonna be dicks because they can. I think this is where we're gonna leave the Ben Shapiro stuff. I think this is the last video of Ben Shapiro we're gonna watch, because I don't want to give this guy any more of a platform to spew his hatred. Plain and simple, just don't want to do it. So I refuse to do it. I refuse to. So I will see you guys in my next video, which should be relatively soon. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping that it'll be up soon. Yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.